I say this particular one would have an interest in costume design due to the wide variation of costume within my film. She'd also possibly be interested in periodic dramas, going to Comic-Con, hiking, computer coding, collecting unique objects in small markets, and playing Cluedo, which relates to the mystery aspect of my film. Spending power would be low, since she is a student and studies full-time at Bournemouth. Favourite films would include The Golden Compass, Sherlock Holmes, Warehouse 13, mysteries and adventure in general. They would enjoy this film because of the variation of periodic costuming and could be very attracted to this. They'll be very attracted to studying construction and adaptation techniques. Plus the mystery would be a more realistic version of that Cluedo game, you could say. Okay, so pre-production. I've handed out some source material, which include the treatment and my sample script. So yeah, if you want to look through it, the treatment is, has each act included within it and what I hope what the storyline will follow. The sample script is a sample of the first scene to happen within my film, which includes the killed girl, who is Natalia's sister, Annabeth. And then, guys, you also have my storyboard, which is also an illustration of that first scene and a little bit extra. Yeah, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Can I just ask, what about set designs, font designs, any of that?
Sorry, can I just take it? Thank you. Okay, so I got this, I have this little booklet which has, it annotates everything.
Do you want to just quickly talk us through mostly your choices, like why did you make those choices?
Okay, sure. So I felt like for my main title it had to be big and bold, yet slightly cursive because of like the type of writing we did at that time. A lot of my film will be based around the colours of like golds and browns and yellows due to the kind of industrial time. Here we have some costume examples. This is a possible male outfit for either William or Jedediah.
Can you tell us what is he wearing and why is he wearing that?
Okay, so he's so the normal kind of steampunk style is based on Victorian fashion, but then added with visual industrial interpretations. For example, like the cogs and the sci-fi goggles, which I've added into his costume. But the basis of that outfit is the Victorian theme, because I feel, well, from the research that I've seen, the men are not as extravagant as the women's costumes. And this is an example of possibly something that Natalia could wear. They wore what could be considered maybe a bit more revealing of the legs, but it's still based off Victorian fashion. This includes like, the black knitted tights, the brown skirt that's like rippled, the sheer shawl on her top, has like the little hat that normally they have. Another outfit is this, which kind of follows the same principles, but this one took possibly a more interpretation of their fashion. And then I have some set designs. This would be an example of Natalia's bedroom, which is quite a basic structure because although she was a girl, she's not very materialistic because she prefers to play with her inventions and toys. So I'll show you this. And then one more set design is an image of the cabin, which is also quite bare since it's supposed to be quite desolate, and you know they'd only put things in to carry on their love affair. So yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, any comments, Mr. Producer?
Just go back to the funding. No, I thought a lot of good detail around the demographics of the audience and why you've chosen to cast those actors. That sort of makes sense, and some good comparisons to use to pitch to an investor or a producer. Looking at the funding model that you've got there, that didn't make sense to me. I think you said the BFI or someone put some money in, and the BBC put some money in, and Creative England put some money in.
No, there were possible funding ways I could approach.
Would you mind going back to that slide? Let's just go back to...
Because I made a list of possible ways that I could approach to fund my...
Yeah, there we are.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So these, so possible funding ways.
The pre-sales, you wouldn't... Universal Pictures, it says UK and Europe, and then you've got Studio Canal UK and Europe, and then you've got Warner Brothers US. Universal would never fund but you're talking about them as distributors, yeah?
Yeah.
You're talking about pre-sales ones there. They wouldn't... Why would they buy... What rights would they buy in Europe that Studio Canal won't buy? Or that's just two options you'll go
yeah, these are possible options that I can approach, because from what I've seen, Universals do distribute in the UK and Europe.
Yeah.
But for example, if I could only get the UK with them, I could approach Studio Canal to promote across Europe, and then Warner Brothers from one end of the in the USA.
Yeah. You should perhaps consider also some of the smaller distributors, like Entertainment One and Entertainment, because you're looking at studio-based, predominantly studio-based distributors that are part of Studio Canal, and they generally will stick to their own productions to distribute. And they do distribute other ones. They've distributed so many distributors that Film One was involved in. There was an independent production. The rest is fine if there's just possible funding sources. I don't think you're not going to get fully funded that way at all. Even if you were to get money out of Creative England, BFI and the BBC and the product placement together, which is highly unlikely, it wouldn't be to that budget that you've alluded to later on. I also noted that it didn't seem to include any post elements at all. You talk about it from a marketing perspective. Maybe you misunderstood, but marketing is not your budget. Marketing...
I think that might be my mistake, so don't be too hard on Kirsty, please.
Yeah, marketing comes from the P&A budget, the print and advertising budget, which is the distributor's budget. So if that marketing goes post, then that's fine. That's fine for a budget.
Okay, can we then ask for advice if this model for funding doesn't work? Where could Kirsty go?
Well, I would say, speaking from experience, you can film, you really need to film, say, a London type setting, don't you?
Yeah.
So a lot of London type settings are filmed in Hungary. Yeah, because there's tax credits there. Where to set up special purpose vehicles to go and film in Hungary is very easy.
Yeah.
So I would think of that, and then I would also think of post-production. Post-production, just doing the editing at the end and the CGI, I would just shift that all over to Ireland. Again, if you look at a lot of programs you see nowadays, post-production is done in Ireland because you get 28% tax relief. So Game of Thrones, Vikings, all those sort of programs are all done in Ireland at the moment. Game of Thrones is actually filmed in Northern Ireland because it gets Northern Ireland, invest Northern Ireland and then screen in Northern Ireland to put money into it. But then it's post-production is done in Southern Ireland, but it benefits from the government's tax relief there. And you don't notice, you won't notice anything different in post-production because that's just editing and CGI and compositing, and there's plenty of studios in Dublin and around Dublin that are just as good as studio post-production houses over here.
Okay, I'm aware that Kirsty needs to get to her work placement, so I wanted to get your input on Kirsty's contingency plan. So would you mind going to there? So has she thought of everything that might go wrong, and what can she do to make sure that things don't go wrong?
Things will go wrong. I'd like to say contingency planning is done very well in the film industry, but it's not. It's probably done better in the construction industry. I don't see anything going. You've done a lot of detailed pre-production planning, so that would possibly cut down on any risk elements occurring during photography, during production. So, and you can't plan against, what you've done here is right, you know, the PBFC giving it a higher rating than you wanted, and, you know, yes, you've made sure that you would make cuts and delay the film release, but again, that's not for you to decide, that's for the distributors to decide. The distributor to make that decision. Yeah, running out of money happens frequently. So, if you got backup investors, then that's quite good planning. I wouldn't necessarily say that second one is something to worry about, because it sounds like you've got that covered anyway. Yeah, and then some actors are available for somewhat
scenes.
Yeah, well that should be covered off up front, and they should be committed to the project contractually. But
I guess you're thinking of illness or anything like
okay.
that.
Well, they're not allowed to be ill. No, it does happen, and it has to be built into their contracts. More often than not, it'll be more for voiceover stuff. And they have to come back to the studio to do that, and they're very happy about it, but they have to do it. So that's a relatively good contingency plan. As I said, it's not very risk and issues aren't very well planned in the film industry.
Can't really predict it until it happens.
No, they can, but they just don't do very well. So that's as good as I've seen.
Okay. Is there anything else for feedback?
Seemed terribly long pre-production and then a terribly short production.
Because so we looked at other film examples, and it seemed like a lot of time was spent doing script writing and getting the scripts right. Especially since mine isn't a book adaptation, it would have to be like use of the themes of the poems and then completely like redrafted and, you know.
Okay.
But they have been like simultaneous. It's not like one after the other, but it's more like during the whole 24 months of production. So the script writing will be going on the entire time.
Sure. Okay. And how long does that cover? You say 1 act per 20 days. In length of time, is that how many acts are there? 3.
3.
And it's 1 hour 50 film.
Pardon?
How long's the film?
1 hour 50.
That's about right. Okay. No, that's fine. Production was fine. Seems quite, my humble opinion, I'd probably give a bit more over to filming, but you seem to have got it right.
You used, Kirsty, was it Spooks that you used, or
Yeah.
you used something as a guide?
Yeah, I used things as a guide, especially for like pre-production.
Okay.
And films, kind of like compared it to, especially like how long I would assume it would take to how long it would take to do a scene, how much it would cost for each place, and how much of the each set. That's why I based it on.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, no, good. Apart from that.
Thank you very much, Kirsty.